Hi everyone. So I'd like to go into another talk about anthroposophy, expressing some ideas. I know I was just talking about the Avengers Doomsday and how that might fulfill a fourth impulse of anthroposophy regarding de-evolution, which I didn't really think many stories gotten involved with, and I know I have mentioned somewhat of the Batman trilogy, and I started thinking about the Batman trilogy again a little bit more, and I have found that it may actually, I think it's perfect. I think it actually fits everything about anthroposophy in those three movies, all four, perfectly. And I haven't seen them in years, and what I would like to do is rewatch them and maybe make like a visual edit and description of a in-depth reference to anthroposophy in the Batman trilogy, or just looking at the Batman trilogy through the lenses of anthroposophy. Because again, I'm not saying that that's what the Batman trilogy is. I'm not saying that Christopher Nolan intended for the Batman trilogy to reference anthroposophy. Um, but I will say that, and I do believe that the Batman trilogy is of good quality. And usually, when something is of good quality, it fits the standards across many dimensions. And that can mean that without actually trying, his ideas and what he created would reflect and match the belief systems of other philosophies or concepts, or because the truth is multidimensional in that way. So in the first movie, with Scarecrow and the League of Shadows, um, really follows the beginning of the Christ impulse. It's the becoming. It's the establishing of that. And he starts off with that, where like the Avengers movie starts off with Loki. Um, Dragon Ball Z starts off um, with the Christ impulse as well, with Frieza. And I thought from there he just does Lucifer with the Joker, and Ahriman with Bane. But when I look at the trilogy and what was actually kind of done, is Bane really reflects a lot more of the de-evolution, and then and I realized that Joker and Two Face play out the Luciferic and Ahrimanic roles really well in the same movie. The reason why Bane really is, I see, takes on the impulse of de evolution is because not only is Batman or Bruce Wayne weakened by the past of the Joker and Two Face of what happened, he also is losing all of his corporations and his assets. His body is weaker, and there's a force that is rising that is taking all those things and is stronger and has more training and is just outs him in every way, and that is kind of the force that that impulse of de-evolution brings, um, right? Because the first one with the League of Shadows and Scarecrow is the his evolution to Batman, and that's the Christ impulse, his evolution. And in the second movie, he deals with the chaotic freedom system-breaking freedom and demoralizing concept of the Joker, which is very Luciferic. And then you have the person who is very orderly and systematic and is trying to take on the crime in the city in the right way, through a systematic way, and the chaotic Luciferic, Joker comes in and breaks his attempts and turns that into Two-Face, right? And then throws that spin. And so he creates a relationship which I didn't acknowledge or I didn't think about so much, is because what I've seen in, like, say, Dragon Ball Z, they created a saga for Aramon, which was the Cell Saga, or in Marvel, it was Ultron, or Loki for Lucifer, and Ultron for Aramon, and it was like a particular movie set to explore the symbolism of that. And Christopher Nolan does an amazing balance in incorporating them both, which is, I think, right in some way. Not that the other things are wrong. And again, none of this is actually, I'm saying if any of this is even intended to be this way. I'm saying if we look at these shows and the narratives through the views of Anthroposophy, it's very quite fitting. And so he incorporates where Lucifer and Aramon are kind of at the same level, right? And it is Christ that rises above those two, walking in between the balancing of the spiritualization of matter and the materialization of spirit. And between walking both of those lines, we walk in Christ of evolution. And in that path, that means that once that is established, there is the becoming of, or the opposing force, which would be de-evolution of the Antichrist. And it really appears that the third movie is more symbolically representational of the de-evolution and how we still rise against those odds. And I think the symbolism and the exploration and how that plays out in the third movie really fits that. And the second movie really takes on both narratives that most other movies will set, or shows that I've seen sets most focus on the one narrative, and that was explored with both those narratives. I think the trilogy really fits that, and I think that just goes to express the quality that was done in that movie. And I'd like to watch it again and maybe do some more visuals or make some edited or some video to explore more of how the parallels between Anthroposophy and that trilogy. I think it's really well done in its symbolism and the way it's put together, and I think it's in that layer alone, it's truly a masterpiece, because of how well it's put together. And again, I'm not saying that any of this was intended in the making of these movies. It's just that the quality can fit into that lens so well, and it works. At least the way that I'm seeing it, it works. And so I'd like to do probably a more deeper dive at some point in referencing all that. And I'm recognizing now more that he does take on the whole concept, and maybe that's why he did stop with the third one, because as far as Anthroposophy, I know those are the four narratives, those are the four impulses. So that's all I really wanted to get into and share a little of a mind on that, and for myself too, in future things that I have in mind to do. I have this to kind of reference to, and That's Batman, Christopher Nolan's trilogy through the lens of Anthroposophy, from what I'm speculating right now, and I'd like to do probably another watch of all that. So if you're still here entertaining this, thank you. And if you have any comments, or if you know about Anthroposophy and you want to comment below about your thoughts on that, that would be really great. And thank you. Until next time.